RTL 4 uur nieuws met Leo de Later.
Good afternoon. This is a special edition of the RTL News. I am Lea Laters. Yesterday there was a meeting of the WTO. A lot of anti-globalists protested against this. Our correspondent in Pittsburgh covered this. Let's look at it. My apologies for that. The technician was drunk. Hopefully we'll show you the right one now.
You must leave.
The unwelcome streets of a city on lockdown. Brought out protesters in the hundreds, and police in full armor blocking every entrance to the city center. It was meant to be a peaceful event, but a tough economy is pushing people to the brink. Police surrounded the crowd and used tear gas to quell the unrest. Alona Minkowski, RT, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
The role of multinationals have become a hot issue in debate last decades. There are different views to globalization and the role that multinationals have in that and the effect it has on poverty. We invited two experts today to talk about this, Eric Lee and Natalie Smith. Eric Lee is a 30-year-old man currently working and living in New York. He has devoted his life to promote global trade. He got his bachelor degree in international relations at Columbia University. He's got his master degree at Harvard. Now he's working for the Samuelson Institute in New York. This is a think tank about globalization. Natalie Smith spent most of her life helping the poor in Africa. She studied international development in Oxford. Her doctoral thesis was about the end of the capitalist system. She is the most prominent leader of the anti-globalists. Welcome Eric, welcome Natalie. Thanks for being here. Let's start with the first question, and that's for you, Natalie. Why are anti-globalists protesting against world trade?
Well, thanks for the invitation. Well, the cultural difference, the cultural influence of multinationals has increased over the past decade, and they've become so big that they have become the ruling bodies of some countries, leaving the actual government listening to their ruling. And this gives a very dangerous situation because, unlike governments, multinationals only have to account to their shareholders. And another thing is that the emphasis of corporations is more on producing brands nowadays than on making the actual products. It's not about the diversity anymore. They want to rule out any local brands and distinctive tastes of regional areas, and implement instead their own brands. And multinationals want to control the whole market, so leaving no space available for local and smaller enterprises.
Okay, that's a clear story, but do you really think that multinationals are causing poverty?
Well, more and more multinationals take their production to low labor wage countries, and in the past 20 years a lot has changed in the income inequality and this poverty. More money goes to the rich elite of the corporate world instead of the more poorer rest of the population.
Okay, let's now look at a clip about this issue.
Kitty de Kock has been a farm worker most of her life. She has no formal qualifications and says this is the only work she can find. A single mother of 4, she, like many others, struggles to make ends meet. Kitty says she can barely get by on a weekly salary of $40.
I don't think it's fair. It's not fair for any of us because we are struggling, and we are, as farm workers, are the people who are struggling the most. But we are the people who are doing the hardest work.
There are about 3,000 fruit farms in South Africa supplying some of the world's leading supermarkets. The country earns an estimated $140 million a year selling fruits. Tesco, the British supermarket chain, is the largest buyer of South African fruit, raking in annual profits of more than $5 billion. But the South Africans who actually grow the food complain about poor salaries and living conditions. And this is what a typical farmhouse looks like in this area. If you come in here, you can see how the conditions are far from satisfactory. Just take a look up there at that ceiling, that makeshift ceiling held up by cardboard boxes, plastic bags. We're told that when it rains, it leaks horrendously. It's also bitterly cold, and the cold wind blows in through these broken window panes. And this is how people in this area are living.
So we looked at the clip. What do you think about that?
Well, first let me say thank you for a lovely invitation.
You're welcome.
And before I say something about the clip, I want to say two things about the accusation from her. The first one is about the brands that multinationals are trying to influence consumers to buy their brands, and as a result to force the local brands out of the market. Well, I think in the end the consumers decide what they want to buy, and therefore if they want to buy the brands of the multinationals, then it's their choice, and if they're happy with it, then let them do it. I mean, if they don't want it, then the multinationals will change it. So there's absolutely no influence from multinationals towards the consumer. The second thing, and it's also about the clip, about the working conditions and real wages. Well, I think in some areas in the world it is true that the working conditions are poor and the wages are maybe decreasing. But if you look the whole picture, if you look the whole world, not just certain areas, if you look at East Asia, I mean 30 years ago it was a really poor area in the world. But now we have the Asian tigers, we have China, we have India. The real wages is steadily increasing, and also the working conditions, and that's development. Okay.
So that's what you think that's the good that's coming from multinationals.
Well.
And why are they globalizing?
I think multinational is a part of globalization. I think they promote, or let's say they assist the development of poor countries. They bring technology, they bring knowledge, and they also bring maybe, or partly, they bring economic growth into, especially if you look at special exporting zones.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, they bring development.
Well, after hearing all of these arguments, can you give an example of how free trade's gone wrong?
Yes, look at Mexico, for example. 3/4 of the population lives in poverty. Since the North American Free Trade Agreement came into force, the wages of the population are even lower than before 1994.
So wait. So what you are going to say is that the NAFTA agreement has actually worsened the condition of Mexico, especially for the workers over there.
Yes.
But you know that most of the economists in the world thinks that the reason why Mexico has showed us such a poor performance is that Mexico didn't reform their banking system after the debt crisis in 1980. And most of the academics in the world, also from the renowned universities, confirmed this theory.
Yes, that is. There is research on that, but it's still the truth that more people are poor there than they were before. So it is in relation with the agreement.
Yes, but just because the poverty has increased, we can't just say that it is related to the NAFTA agreement or to the liberalization of trade. I mean, there are a lot of aspects and influences into the numbers of poverty, of people who live in poverty. I mean, what about government policies? What about economic environments? There are shocks, macroeconomic shocks, there are cyclical shocks. So I think it would be very, well, let's say, stupid to say just that Mexico's poor performance is because of the NAFTA agreement.
Do you have a reaction for that? No, then we're just going to move to the next subject because we don't have a